Good morning and a very welcome to Sport for Business. We're joined today by the chair of Shamrock Rovers Football Club. We are in the week of the start of the new season of the SSE Airtricity League, and it will be your first game in that position. Very warm welcome to you, Ciaran Medlar.
Thanks, Rob. Good to talk to you.
Tell me, it has been 3 months or so now since you took over the position. The last season had just concluded, which was an achievement in and of itself, and obviously Shamrock Rovers ended up winning the title. So a great way to finish off. You go in as reigning champions. What's it been like during the close season over the last few months?
Well, it's been interesting, first of all, to get to know the people around the club, and as you say, we're coming off the back of a very strong season, very successful season for Stephen Bradley and his team. So there's lots of positive stuff to look forward to, but like many businesses, and the business of the club is actually challenging at the moment. I mean, we're with no games on, clearly there's no revenue coming from games. Commercial partners are under pressure themselves, so it's difficult, one, to maintain relationships, but also to generate new commercial partnerships, which we've managed to do. But I think it's fair to say, getting to know people who are around the club at board level, in the academy, Shane Robinson and his team, as I said, the first team, it's been very interesting to see how it all comes together, and on the back of a couple of very strong seasons for the club, and hopefully with a lot of positives to look forward in the coming 12 months.
One of those, of course, will hopefully be participation in the sort of the qualification rounds, at least for the Champions League. You've got some history in Rovers of success in Europe. The sort of the numbers that we saw from Dundalk last season, an estimated 4 million in terms of revenue coming through from just getting to that stage from the previous season. How important is Europe in the greater scheme of things for any club within the SSE Airtricity League?
Well, it's hugely important. I mean, we are operating in an environment where the league has certain limitations as to how much commercial revenue it can generate. Going to Europe in the first instance is transformational for a club's revenue year on year, and to win at a Champions League level and then hopefully qualify for group stages just compounds that. I mean, the figures you mentioned, I mean, I'm sure you're aware what the winning the league here in Ireland is. It is a multiple of that. So it is transformational for a club, and if you can do it year on year, that is obviously the real aim for everybody to try and do that. And hopefully, as a league, it's important that there's more clubs challenging and potentially qualifying for group stages and moving us all up that food chain in Europe. So I think it's important that there's an obligation on everyone to run their club and be as successful as you can, but also there's a wider obligation to the league and to the other clubs that the whole, every boat rises on the back of that as well. So that is the plan. But for us, I mean, to actually qualify for the group stages would be transformational. You can't actually budget for that in advance, but that would be a game changer, certainly.
I guess before we get to Europe, though, we have got the domestic season. It's the start of the year when everybody is confident, everybody is optimistic, everybody feels as though this could be the year of a breakthrough. There seems to be a greater sense of optimism, which doesn't really tally with the fact that we'll be playing in empty stadia. But the sponsorship, SSE Airtricity coming back on board, signing up for 2 more years, the fact that the Watch LOI program is going to mean that we'll be able to see the games, even if we can't get there in person. And hopefully we'll be able to get back out into the regular run of society, perhaps for the second half of the season. How does it feel from behind your desk at Tallaght Stadium in terms of what this season is going to look like?
Well, first of all, you're right. This is the best week of the season because there's so much anticipation and everyone's up for it. Everyone's been, the teams are ready. They've refreshed teams, so it's a great time and everyone's excited like children to watch again. There's a huge appetite for the sport. I think you mentioned there about people not going to games, but there's huge interest in League of Ireland. I mean, there's two recent evidences. One is the game in last year in February between Shamrock Rovers and Dundalk. Was people reference it all the time. The stadium was full. It was a fantastic game on television, live television. The people who were there wanted more of it. The people who weren't there wanted to go and have a look at it. So it was an awful shame that COVID came when it did. But on the back of that, the interest has been maintained. I think if you look at the season tickets and interest for ourselves and for other clubs, and even the document you circulated yesterday around the commercial partnerships that have been linked up with the various clubs. And at the end of that, you quoted the Twitter followers for each clubs. I mean, if you quick thought that, there's over 250,000 Twitter followers amongst the 10 clubs. So there's definitely an interest in there, both domestically and for people overseas who are linked back to the clubs. So I think there's a real opportunity post-COVID when people will not be travelling to watch Derby County on a Saturday morning, or Nottingham Forest in Dublin Airport, they have a real appetite for real attractive football. And I think that's a real challenge for the teams in the leagues this year, to try and capture that. And part of that is obviously the quality on the pitch. Part of it is actually trying to improve the stadium, which is not an easy fix. But I think that the appetite and the interest in the game is much broader than maybe we thought even 18 months ago.
There's always been a great audience for football, but it has generally gone across the channel. As you say, if we could only keep the people who were at Dublin Airport on a Saturday morning here on a Friday night and get them to the matches. So maybe as our world shrinks and remains smaller than it was, do you see that as being a real opportunity? Do you see full stadia being back here potentially before the end of this season?
Well, I think before the end of this season might be a bit ambitious. I think everyone was planning on the basis of no one in stadium, and I think maybe sometime in July and August you might have some people going in where you'll be able to have smaller crowds in. At the weekend, you saw the English FA announced they're going to have 20,000 people for the FA Cup final in the UK. Now they're a bit further down the line from us. But I think there's reason to be optimistic that we'll have bigger crowds at the end of the season. I don't expect full capacity perhaps, but certainly maybe half capacity by the end of the season.
And in the meantime, we've got Watch LOI, and we've got a new deal with RTE as well, so that the games will be broadcast on a Friday night and then on the streaming platform as well. There's a feeling that if the system works well, if the fans get on board, if they sign up, and if they really choose to watch, perhaps in greater numbers than they did at the end of last season, that this is something which is going to carry on. But a number of clubs have already said that they are going to be carrying on with a stream of some description because they see it as really important. What's the Rovers' position on it?
That would be our intention too. I mean, if the Watch LOI comes to an end, we would have our own streaming service in place. That's the plan, so that our fans who can't get into the stadium with reduced capacities will still be able to follow the team and watch the games live.
And do you feel in your day job within BDO and in the world of football, you'd be acutely aware of the different trends in terms of media and in terms of the way that sport and business interact with each other? Do you feel as though this is an opportunity for the league to really sort of place itself on, if not a global scale, then certainly on a European level, that we could be reaching out beyond our own borders with the Irish football product?
I think that would be the ambition. I think we are limited by some of the facilities we do have, like in the grounds, as I said earlier. I think there is an interest in sport, but we're in a really competitive market with other sports and with obviously larger leagues throughout Europe. But that would be the aim, that you will actually try and broaden the reach of the actual the overseas supporters. And there is quite a lot of overseas supporters linked to our club and many other clubs in the league as well.
And you have been one of the few clubs that's actually brought on board a new sponsor this year. It's in the online gambling world. 888 is the brand that will be on the jersey. The FAI themselves decided that they wouldn't enter into a partnership with the betting world. Was that something that caused concern for you, or was it a case that this was an opportunity which really had to be taken in the current circumstances?
Well, I think it was something that the board were certainly very aware of and gave a lot of consideration to us, so that principal partner would be. I think betting companies are quite active in the marketplace. Over 40% of the Premier League clubs have betting companies on their jerseys. But it wasn't a decision we took lightly. And when we partnered up with 888 Sport, it was a firm that we felt was aligned to the actual the ethos of safer gambling. I think it's important that we do know that there is no centralised share of the betting levy to football clubs, which I know that's been mooted and something that will be revisited, I expect. So betting companies go direct and sponsor clubs. And while football is very much part of that betting and fun for many people, it's not fun for everybody. And we are very, very aware of that. Gambling addiction is a real challenge, and also it affects many people by extension. So it is a responsibility that both us as a club and 888 Sport have to take very seriously, that we keep the awareness campaign both front and central to any sort of partnership that we do have. And I think the campaign that 888 Sport run is consistent with that. So that is very much part of it. And we will continue to have that throughout the period of the partnership.